Okay, Hare Krishna. Who wants to read the Mangalacharna prayers?
I can do this, bro. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Haribol. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so today we read a new book called The Journey of Self-Discovery. Introduction. Are you in any way dissatisfied with your life as it now stands? Has the pursuit or even the achievement of the goals you have set for yourself become somewhat frustrating? If so, read on. For one acquainted with the spiritual wisdom of India, the ideal life is not fast-paced, competitive run through a self-serve consumer paradise. There is a higher measure of success and happiness than the number of high-glows, gadgets, bubbles, and thrills one can zoom through the checkout counter with before time runs out. An awakened person will try to learn something worthwhile along the way to gradually accumulate assets of permanent value. In the final analysis, the supreme accomplishment is to improve significantly the one position that is really ours to keep, or consciousness, or sense of identity, or inner self. All else eventually slips away. Seen in this way, life becomes a journey of self-discovery. And what is the theme of this book? The journey of self-discovery is your guide to a new way of looking at life, a way proven to lead you to higher levels of awareness and satisfaction. Thousands of people like yourself are already experiencing these results. All it takes is some expert guidance, the kind available from a person who has already completed the journey, who knows the ways and means by which you can arrive safely at your destination. In the journey of self-discovery, you will become intimately acquainted with a spiritual master about whom Harvey Cox of Harvard School of Divinity said, Srila Prabhupada is of course only one of thousands of teachers, but in another sense, he is one in 1,000, maybe one in 1,000,000. According to Dr. Cox, one of America's leading Christian theologians, Srila Prabhupada's life was pointed proof that one can be a transmitter of truth and still be a vital and singular person. Srila Prabhupada, the founding spiritual master of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, translated over 40 volumes of the most essential work of Vedic literature, Complete sets of books with original Sanskrit and Bengali texts have been purchased by thousands of university libraries around the world, and dozens of scholars have praised them. But that is not what you will find in the journey of self-discovery. In these pages, you will see Srila Prabhupada taking the essential truths of the timeless Vedic wisdom of India and communicating them live to persons like yourself in talks, conversations, and interviews with gravity and wit, roses and thunderbolts. Srila Prabhupada delivers transcendental knowledge with maximum impact and precision. All the selections printed in the Journey of Self-Discovery originally appeared in Back to Godhead, the magazine Srila Prabhupada founded in India in 1944. When he came to America, he started the Hare Krishna movement in 1966. He requested his new followers to take up the task of publishing the magazine. Ever since Back to Godhead has served the vital functioning of bringing the Vedic knowledge to the contemporary world, addressing the spiritual needs of people confronting the frustrations of modern life. Authoritative and informative, the Journey of Self-Discovery is also easy to read. The anthology format allows you to approach this book in a variety of ways. You can read the Journey of Self-Discovery from a start to finish, proceeding through the systematical arranged selections, or you can glance over the table of contents and find a selection of particular interest. Because each selection is short and complete in itself, you can easily explore topics that attract your attention without having to go through the entire book. The principal lesson of the Journey of Self-Discovery is that our consciousness selfhood is not an accidental cosmic side effect, a fleeting electromagnetic discharge generated by a temporary configuration of subatomic particles at some point in space-time. Rather, each center of consciousness is itself an absolute, irreducible unit of reality. As Srila Prabhupada tells physicist Gregory Benford, we don't say that scientific knowledge is useless. Mechanics, electronics, this is also knowledge. But the central point is Atma-jnana, self-knowledge, knowledge of the soul. And after we understand the soul, the quest for knowledge continues. Srila Prabhupada tells a press conference in Los Angeles, in the background of this body, you can find the soul, whose presence is perceivable by consciousness. Similarly, in the universal body of the cosmic manifestation, one can perceive the presence of the Supreme Lord or the Absolute Truth by virtue of the presence of superconsciousness. Just as we are individual and personal, the superconsciousness is also individual and personal. In the Vedic scriptures, the identity of the superconscious self is revealed to be Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada describes Krishna as the greatest artist, the source of all beauty and attraction. The real key to happiness and satisfaction, Srila Prabhupada explains, is discovering the eternal personal link between ourselves and the superconsciousness. This state is called Krishna consciousness, and in the journey of self-discovery, you will learn how to achieve this, the highest and most pleasurable consciousness in your own life. Krishna consciousness is loving consciousness. In the selection, Absolute Love, Srila Prabhupada says to his audience, everyone is frustrated. Husbands, wives, boys, girls. Everywhere there is frustration because our loving propensity is not being utilized properly. Srila Prabhupada then goes on to explain how love is most fully experienced when directed toward the Supreme Person, Krishna, who can perfectly and completely reciprocate with everyone. This is the secret of lasting happiness. In Krishna, Enchanter of the Soul, Srila Prabhupada advises, a man is attracted by a woman is attracted by a man, and when they are united in sex, their attachment for this material world increases more and more. But our business is not to be attracted by the glimmer of this material world. Our business is to be attracted by Krishna. And when we become attracted by the beauty of Krishna, we will lose our attraction for the false beauty of this material world. Here Srila Prabhupada stands in contrast to the many so-called spiritual teachers who promise their followers they can have it all, unrestricted material enjoyment, as well as spiritual profit. In Show Battles Spiritualists Exposed, Srila Prabhupada gives an unsparing critique of deceptive gurus and spiritualists who mislead their followers. Srila Prabhupada did not manufacture his own spiritual process with a view to personal profit. Rather, he freely taught the specific meditation technique recommended in the Vedas for this age. In meditation through the transcendental sound, Srila Prabhupada tells students at Boston Northeastern University, if you take up this simple process, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, you are immediately elevated to the transcendental platform. Those who progress on the journey of self-discovery are better able to understand and solve the world's problems. In material problems, spiritual solutions, we learn from Srila Prabhupada how we can practically apply Krishna consciousness to relieve the widespread suffering brought on by violence and food shortage. In the early 1970s, Srila Prabhupada gave a remarkable foresighted analysis of the failure of the communist system of government to provide happiness for its people. You will find this striking conversation in section VI, Perspectives on Science and Philosophy. In Evolution in Fact and Fantasy, Srila Prabhupada says, we accept evolution, but not that the forms of the species are changing. The bodies are already there, but the soul is evolving by changing bodies and by transmigrating from one body to another. The defect of the evolution is that they have no information of the soul. Ultimately, the journey of self-discovery leads from this material world to the spiritual world. In entering the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada tells the listeners, everything in the spiritual world is substantial and original. The material world is only an imitation. It is just like a cinematographic picture in which we see only the shadow of the real thing. So for those who suspect that the real thing is something more than a soft drink, the journey of self-discovery will illuminate a path that leads to life's ultimate, most perfect destination. And for those who may not regard themselves as seekers, but are nevertheless curious about the philosophy of the Hare Krishna movement, the journey of self-discovery provides throughout yet compact introduction. Hare Krishna. Okay, anyone can continue with the first chapter.
Hare Krishna. The first chapter, The Journey of Self-Discovery, the Physics of the Self. In October 1973, Dr. Gregory Benford, an associate professor of physics at the University of California at Irvine, visits Srila Prabhupada in the garden of the Los Angeles Krishna Center. In the course of their intriguing discussion about the possibility of scientific understanding of the soul, Srila Prabhupada declares, we don't say that this scientific knowledge is useless. Mechanics, electronics, this is also knowledge, but the central point is Atma Jnana, self-knowledge, knowledge of the soul. Srila Prabhupada, what is the current scientific knowledge about spirit soul? We have virtually no scientific knowledge about the soul. Prabhupada, therefore you have actually made no advancement in scientific knowledge. Well, scientific knowledge is a different class of knowledge. Perhaps. There are so many departments of knowledge: the medical study of the body, the physiological study of the mind, and ultimately spiritual, transcendental knowledge. The body and mind are simply the coverings of the spirit soul, just as this shirt and coat are coverings for your body. If you simply take care of the shirt and coat and neglect the person who is covered by the shirt and coat, do you think that this is advancement of knowledge? I think that there is no category of knowledge that is useless. Prabhupada, we don't say that this scientific knowledge is useless. Mechanics, electronics, this is also knowledge. But different departments of knowledge differ in their comparative importance. For example, if someone wants to cook nicely, This is also a science. There are many different departments of knowledge, but the central point is Atmagyana, self-knowledge, the knowledge of the soul. The only form of knowledge that is verifiable in the sense of getting everybody to agree with it, is that which can be proved logically or experimentally. Srila Prabhupada. The science of the self can be verified logically. How so? Just consider your body. You once had the body of a child, but now you don't have that body anymore. You have a different body. Yet anyone can understand that you once had the body of a child. So your body has changed, but you are still remaining. Dr. Benford. I'm not so sure it is the same I. Prabhupada. Yes, you are the same I. Just as the parents of a child will say after he has grown up, oh, just see how our son has grown. He is the same person. His parents say so. His friends say so. His family says so. Everyone says so. This is the evidence. You have to accept this point because there's so much evidence. Your mother will deny that you are a different person even though you have a different body. Dr. Benford. But I may not be the same being that I was. Prabhupada, correct. Not the same means, for example, that a young child may talk nonsense now, but when he gets an adult body, he does not speak foolishly. Although he is the same person, along with his change in body, he has developed different consciousness. But the spirit soul, the person, is the same. He acts according to his body, that's all, according to his circumstances. A dog, for example, is also a spirit soul, but because he has a dog's body, he lives and acts like a dog. Similarly, when the spirit soul has a child's body, he acts like a child. When he has a different body, the same soul acts like a man. According to circumstances, his activities are changing, but he is the same. For example, now you are a scientist. In your childhood, you were not a scientist, so your dealings at that time were not those of a scientist. One's dealings may change according to circumstances, but the person is the same. Therefore, the conclusion is Tathadhantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. When this body is finished, the soul gives it up and accepts another body. Bhagavad Gita 2:13. Tathadhantara. The hantara means another body. This is our Sanskrit knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita. When the spirit soul is injected into the womb of a woman, it forms a little body. Gradually, through the emulsification of secretions, the body develops to the size of a pea because of the presence of the spirit soul. Gradually, the body develops nine holes: eyes, ears, mouth, nostrils, genitals, and rectum. In this way, the body is developed to completion in 7 months. Then consciousness comes. Dr. Benford, at 7 months? Prabhupada, yes. The child wants to come out. He feels uncomfortable. Therefore, he prays to God to kindly release him from the bondage. He promises that when he gets out, he will become a devotee of God. So after 9 months, he comes out of the womb. But unless his parents are devotees, due to circumstances, he forgets God. Only if the father and mother are devotees does he continue his God consciousness. Therefore, it is a great fortune to take birth in a family of Vaishnavas, those who are God consciousness. This God consciousness is real scientific knowledge. Dr. Benford, is it true that the children of all such parents are somewhat spiritually superior to the children of other parents? Prabhupada, generally yes. They get the opportunity of being trained by the mother and father. Fortunately, my father was a great devotee, so I received this training from the very beginning. Somehow or other, I had this spark of Krishna consciousness, and my father detected it. Then I accepted my spiritual master. In this way, I have come to this stage of sannyas, the renounced monastic order. I am very much in debt to my father, for he took care of me in such a way that I became perfectly Krishna conscious. My father used to receive many saintly persons at our home, and to every one of them he used to say, "Kindly bless my son so that he may become a servant of Radharani, Lord Krishna's eternal consort." That was his only ambition. He taught me how to play the mridanga drum, although sometimes my mother was not very satisfied. She would say, "Why are you teaching him to play mridanga?" But my father would say, No, he must learn a little mridanga. My father was very affectionate to me. Therefore, if due to past pious activities one gets a good father and mother, there is a great chance for advancing in Krishna consciousness. Dr. Benford, what will happen to you and your students next? Prabhupada, we are going back to Krishna. We have got everything. Yeah. Krishna's name, Krishna's address, Krishna's form, Krishna's activities. We know everything, and we are going there. Krishna promises this in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yaviti tatvataha tyaktvam dehar punarjanma naiti mamati sarjuna. One who knows me in truth, scientifically, Krishna says, is eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. Upon leaving the body, he does not take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. Hare Krishna. Anyone can continue next. Amazing book.
Ribo, who wants to be next?
Me, Prabhu. Am I audible, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Ribo.
Dr. Benford. Srila Prabhupada, we see that there are so many forms. Where do these different come from? The form of the dog, the form of the car, the form of the tree, the form of the reptile, the form of the insects, the form of the fish. What is your explanation for all these different forms that you do not for evolution? Srila Prabhupada, not exactly. The different species are already of these are already like the different types of apartments here in Los Angeles. You may occupy one of them according to your ability to pay rent, but all types of apartments are nevertheless existing at the same time. Similarly, the living entity, according to his karma, is given facility to occupy one of these bodily form, one of these bodily forms. But there is evolution, also spiritual evolution from the fish. The soul evolves to plant life. From plant forms the living entity, enters an insect body. From the insect body, the next stage is bird, then beast, and finally the spirit soul may evolve to the human form of life. And from the human form, if unqualified, he may evolve further. Otherwise, he must again enter the evolutionary cycle. Therefore, his human form of life is an uh, important juncture in the evolutionary development of the living entity. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yanti Deva Vrata, Devan Pitrun Yanti Pitu Vratan, Bhutan Yanti Bhutedya, Bhutan Yanti Bhutedya, Yanti Madhyajino Timam. In other words, whatever you like, you can achieve. There are different lokas or planetary systems, and you can go to the higher planetary systems where the demigods live and take a body there. Or you can go where the pitas or ancestors live. You can take a body here in Bhuloka, the earthly planetary system, or you can go to the planet of God, Krishna Loka. This method of transferring oneself at the time of death to whatever planet one chooses is called yoga. There is a physical process of yoga, a philosophical process of yoga, and a devotional process of yoga. The devotees can go directly to the planet where Krishna is. Dr. Benford, undoubtedly, you are aware that there are few people, both in Eastern and Western society, who feel it a bit more intellectually justifiable to be completely agnostic about matters of theology. They feel more or less that if God wanted us to know something more about Him, then He would have made it more easily apprehendable. Srila Prabhupada, then you don't believe in God. Dr. Benford, I don't believe in God. I'm just not forming an opinion until I have some evidence. Srila Prabhupada, but do you think that there is God or not? Dr. Benford, I have a suspension that there may be, but it is unverified. Srila Prabhupada, but you think sometimes that there may be God. Do you not? Yes. Srila Prabhupada, so you are in doubt, suspension. You are not certain, but your inclination is that you think there is God. Is it not? You are knowledgeable, being imperfect. You are in doubt, that's all. Otherwise, you are inclined to think of God. But because you are a scientific man, unless you perceive it scientifically, you do not accept it. That is your position. But from your side, you believe in God. Sometimes. But Dr. Benford, sometimes. Srila Prabhupada, yes. Sometimes or all times, it doesn't matter. That is the position of everyone. As long as one is in the human form of life, he has a dormant consciousness of God. It is simply he has simply to be developed by proper training. It is just like anything else in life. For example, you have become a scientist by proper training, proper education. Similarly, the dormant consciousness of God or Krishna is there in everyone. It simply requires proper education to awaken it. However, this education is not given in the universities. That is a defect in modern education. Although the inclination to be Krishna conscious is there, thoughts are unfortunately not any education about God. Therefore, people are becoming godless and they are feeling baffled in obtaining the true joy and satisfaction of life. In San Diego, some priestly orders are going to hold a meeting to investigate the reasons why people are becoming averse to religion and not coming to church. But the cause is simple because your government does not know that life, especially human life, is meant for understanding God. They are supporting all the departments of knowledge, wherein except the principal department of consciousness, Dr. Benford. So, of course, the reason is separation of church and state, Srila Prabhupada. Reasons there may be many, but sorry, Prabhu. Am I audible, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, yes, bro. No problem.
Yes, Prabhu. Uh, Srila Prabhupada, reasons may be many, but the principal reason is that this age of Kali Yuga, this age is the Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. People are not very intelligent, therefore they are trying to avoid this department of knowledge. And people are not very intelligent, therefore they are trying to avoid this department of knowledge, the most important department of knowledge, and they are simply busy in the departments of knowledge in which the animals are also busy. Your advancement of knowledge is comprised of four things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. For example, you are discovering so many lethal weapons, and the politicians are taking advantage of it for defending. You are discovering so many chemicals to check pregnancy, and people are using them to increase sex life. Dr. Benford, what do you think about the moon mission? Srila Prabhupada. That is also sleeping. You have spent so much money to go there and sleep, that's all. Otherwise, what can you do there? Dr. Benford, you can go there and learn. Srila Prabhupada. That is also sleeping. You have spent so much money to go there and sleep. That's all. Otherwise, what can you do there? Dr. Benford, you can go there and learn. Srila Prabhupada, you go there and sleep, that's all, sleeping. You are spending billions and getting nothing in return. Dr. Benford, it's worth more than that. Srila Prabhupada, no, nothing more, because these four principles, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are the background. If you have no knowledge beyond this body, you cannot go beyond this bodily jurisdiction. You may have very gorgeous, polished bodily knowledge, but your whole range of activities is within these four principles of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This knowledge is prevalent among the lower animals also. They know how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sexual intercourse, and how to defend. Dr. Benford. But they not know anything about nuclear physics. Srila Prabhupada. That does not mean that you are improved over the animals. It is the same thing, only polished. You are improving from the bullock carts to the car. That's all. Simply a transformation of material knowledge. Dr. Benford. There is a knowledge about the structure of the physical world. Srila Prabhupada. But it is a waste of energy because in your activities, You cannot go beyond this bodily jurisdiction of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The dog may sleep on the ground, and you may sleep in a very nice apartment. But when you sleep, when you sleep, your enjoyment and the dog's enjoyment are the same. You may have so many electrical appliances and other conveniences, but when you sleep, you forget everything. Therefore, the gorgeous sleeping accommodation is simply a waste of time. Dr. Benford, you seem to place emphasis on what knowledge does for you. What about the sheer joy of discovering how nature works? For example, now we think that we understand matter like this, pointing to the grass. We think that we know from experiments, theory, and analysis that it is made up of particles that we cannot see, and we can analyze the properties of it through experiment. We know that it is made up of molecules. We understand some of the forces that hold it together, and this is the first time we knew this. We didn't know it before. Srila Prabhupada. But what is the benefit? Even if you knew every particle of this graph, what would be the benefit? The grass is growing, it will grow with or without your knowledge. You may know it or you not know it, but it will not make any difference. Anything you like, you may study from a material analytical point of view. Any nonsense thing you take, you can study and compile a voluminous book. But what will be the use of it? Dr. Benford, I seem to view the world as a sum of component parts. Srila Prabhupada, suppose I take this grass, I can write volumes of books when it came into existence, when it died, what the fibers are, what the molecules are. In so many ways, I can describe this insignificant foliage. But what is the use of it? Dr. Benford, if it has no use, why did God put it there? Isn't it? But while studying Srila Prabhupada, our point is that we would rather study the insignificant grass than the God who has created everything. If you could understand him, then automatically you could understand the grass. But you want to separate his grass from him to study it separately. In this way, you can compile volumes and volumes on the subject. But why waste your intelligence in that way? The branch of a tree is beautiful as long it is attached to the main trunk. But as soon as you cut it off, it will dry up. Therefore, what is the use of studying the dried plants? This waste of intelligence, Dr. Benford. But why is it a waste? Srila Prabhupada, certainly it is a waste because the result is not useful. Dr. Benford, well, what is useful? Srila Prabhupada, it is useful to know yourself what you are. Dr. Benford, why is knowledge of myself better than knowledge of a plant? Srila Prabhupada, if you understand what you are, then you understand other things. That is called Atma Tattva, Atma Jnana, self-knowledge. That is important. I'm a spirit soul. I'm passing through so many species of life. But what is my position? I don't wish to die because I am afraid to change bodies. Therefore, I am afraid of death. This question should be raised first. I don't want unhappiness, but unhappiness comes. I don't want death, but death comes. I don't want disease, but disease comes. I don't want to become an old man, but old age comes anyway. What is the reason that all these things are coming by force? Who is enforcing these things? I do not know. But these are real problems. I do not want excessive heat, but there is excessive heat. Why? Who is enforcing these things? Why are they being enforced? I don't want this heat. What have I done? These are real questions, not just studying foliage and writing volumes of books. That is a waste of energy. Study yourself. Understanding the living force. In a statement delivered at press conference in Los Angeles in December of 1968, Srila Prabhupada challenges the world's intellectual leaders to review their definition of what constitutes life. In the background of this body, you can find the soul, whose presence is perceivable by dint of consciousness. Similarly, in the universal body of cosmic manifestation, one can perceive the presence of the Supreme Soul or the Absolute Truth by virtue of presence of super consciousness. Hare Krishna, if someone can read. Prabhu?
Krishna. Yes, Prabhu, thank you so much for reading.
Yes, someone can continue.
Hare Krishna. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is a movement aiming at the spiritual reorientation of mankind through the simple process of chanting the holy names of God. The human life is meant for ending the miseries of material existence. Our present-day society is trying to end these miseries by material progress. However, it is visible to all that in spite of extensive material progress, human society is not peaceful. The reason is that the human being is essentially a spirit soul. It is the spirit soul which is the background of the development of the material body. However, the materialistic scientist may deny the spiritual existence in the background of the living force. There is no better understanding than accepting this living force as ultimately the spirit soul within the body. The body is changing from one form to another, but the spirit soul is existing eternally without changes. This is facts we can experience even in our own life. Since the beginning of our material body in the womb of our mother, our body has been changing from one shape to another at every second and at every minute. This process is generally known as growth, but actually it is a change of body. On this earth, we see change of day and night and change of season. The more primitive mentality attributes this phenomenon to changes occurring in the sun. For example, in the winter, primitive people think the sun is getting weaker, and at night they presume sometimes that the sun is dead. With more advanced knowledge, we see that the sun is not changing at all in this way. Seasonal and diurnal changes are attributed to the changes of the relative position of the earth and the sun. Similarly, we experience bodily changes from embryo to child to youth to maturity to old age to death. The less intelligent mentality presumes that after death, the spirit soul's existence is forever finished, just as primitive tribes believe that the sun dies at the sunset. Actually, however, the sun is rising in another part of the world. Similarly, the soul is accepting another type of body. When the body gets old like an old garment and is no longer usable, the soul accepts another body, just as we accept a new suit of clothes. Modern civilization is practically unaware of this truth. People do not care about constitutional position of the soul. There are different departments of knowledge in different universities and many technological institutions, all to study and understand the subtle laws of material nature, and there are medical research laboratories to study the philosophical condition of the material body, but there is no institution to study the constitutional position of the soul. This is the greatest drawback of materialistic civilization, which is simply an external manifestation of the soul. People are enamored of the glittering manifestation of the cosmic body or the individual body, but they do not try to understand the basic principle of this glittering situation. The body looks very beautiful, working with full energy and exhibiting great traits of talent and wonderful brain work. But as soon as the soul is away from the body, this entire glittering situation of the body becomes useless. Even the great scientists who have offered many wonderful scientific contributions have been unable to trace out the personal self, which is the cause of such wonderful discoveries. The Krishna conscious movement, therefore, is basically trying to teach the science of the soul, not in any dogmatic way, but through complete scientific and philosophical understanding. In the background of this body, you can find the soul, whose presence is perceivable by dint of consciousness. Similarly, in the universal body of the cosmic manifestation, one can perceive the presence of the Supreme Lord, or the Absolute Truth, by virtue of the presence of the Super Soul and Super Consciousness. The Absolute Truth is systematically explained in the Vedanta Sutra, generally known as the Vedanta philosophy, which in turn is elaborately explained by the Srimad Bhagavatam, a commentary by the same author. The Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of the Srimad Bhagavatam for understanding the constitutional position of the Supreme Lord or the Absolute Truth. An individual soul is understood in three aspects. First, as the consciousness pervading the entire body, then as the spirit soul within the heart, and ultimately as a person. Similarly, the absolute truth is first realized as impersonal Brahman. First realized as impersonal Brahman, then as localized super soul, Paramatma, and at the end as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, this was nicely explained. I never realized before that this is also the three aspects work on individual soul also. The consciousness pervading the entire body, then the spiritual within the heart, and ultimately as a person. The same thing applies to the individual soul. And at the end, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna is all-inclusive, or in other words, Krishna is simultaneously Brahman, Paramatma, and the Personality of Godhead, just as every one of us is simultaneously consciousness, soul, and person. The individual person and the Supreme Person are qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. Just like the drop of sea water and the vast mass of sea water, both are qualitatively one. The chemical composition of the drop of sea water and that of the mass of sea water are one and the same, but the quantity of salt and other minerals in the whole sea is many, many times greater than the quantity of salt and other minerals contained in the drop of sea water. The Krishna consciousness movement upholds the individuality of the soul and the Supreme Soul. From the Vedic Upanishads, we can understand that both the Supreme Person or God and the individual person are eternal living entities. The difference is that the Supreme Living Entity or Supreme Person maintains all the innumerable other living entities. In the Christian way of understanding, the same principle is admitted because in the Bible it is taught that the how is this word? Contain. What is this word? Can someone tell me?
No idea.
I've never seen this word before, so I was about to say continent, but it's yeah, something. Contingent. Contingent. Yeah, is this a mistake or is it a real word? Let's see. Yeah, it is actually. Subject to change. How it is said?
Contingent.
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 Contingent. Contingent entity should pray to the Supreme Father so that he may supply means of maintenance and give pardon for their sinful activities. So it is understood from every source of scriptural injunction that the Supreme Lord or Krishna is the maintainer of the contingent living entity, and that it is the duty of the contingent entity to feel obliged to the Supreme Lord. This is the whole background of religious principles. Maintainer of the entity, and that is to do. This is the whole background of religious principles. Without these acknowledgements, there is chaos, as we find in our daily experience at present moment. Everyone is trying to become the Supreme Lord, either socially, politically, or individually. Therefore, there is competition for this false lordship, and there is chaos all over the world, individually, nationally, socially, collectively. The Krishna conscious movement is trying to establish the supremacy of the absolute personality of Godhead. One who has attained a human body and intelligence is meant for this understanding, because this consciousness makes his life successful. This Krishna consciousness movement is not a new introduction by mental speculators. Actually, this movement was started by Krishna himself on the battlefield of Kurukshetra at least 5,000 years ago. The movement was presented by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. From Bhagavad Gita, we can also understand that he had spoken this system of consciousness long before, at least 40 million years ago, when he had imparted it to the sun god Vivashvan. So this movement is not at all new. It is coming down in disciplic succession, and from all the great leaders of India's Vedic civilization, including Sankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, and lately, about 480 years ago, Lord Chaitanya. Now it's over 500 years ago. The disciplic system is still being followed today. This Bhagavad Gita is also very widely used in all parts of the world by great scholars, philosophers, and religionists, but in most cases, the principles are not followed as they are. The Krishna consciousness movement presents the principles of the Bhagavad Gita as they are, without any misinterpretation. From Bhagavad Gita, we can understand 5 main principles, namely God, the living entity, the material and spiritual nature, time, and activities. Out of these 5 items, God, the living entity, nature, material or spiritual, and time are eternal. But activities are not eternal. Activities in the material nature are different from activities in the spiritual nature. Though the spiritual is eternal, as we have explained, activities performed under the influence of this material nature are temporary. The Krishna consciousness movement aims at placing the spiritual in his eternal activities. We can practice eternal activities even when we are materially engaged. To act spiritually simply requires direction, but it is possible under the prescribed rules and regulations. The Krishna consciousness movement teaches these spiritual activities, and if one is trained in such spiritual activities, one is transferred to the spiritual world, of which we get ample evidence from the Vedic literatures, including the Bhagavad Gita. The spiritually trained persons can be transferred to the spiritual world easily by change of consciousness. Hare Krishna. Okay, who wants to continue? Oh, it's ending. Okay, I can finish this one. Consciousness is always present because it is the symptom of the living spirit soul. But at the present moment, all consciousness is materially contaminated. For instance, water pouring down from a cloud is pure. But as soon as the water comes in touch with earth, it becomes muddy immediately. Yet if we filter the same water, the original clearness can be regained. Similarly, the Krishna consciousness is the process of clearing our consciousness. And as soon as our consciousness is clear and pure, we are eligible to be transferred to the spiritual world for our eternal life of knowledge and bliss. This is what we are hankering for in this material world, but we are being frustrated at every step on account of material contamination. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement should be taken very seriously by the leaders of human society. Hare Krishna. Okay, tomorrow we continue about the science of spiritual life, but now we go to 6 Astakam prayers. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam shreyah kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritasvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
नाम्नामकारि बहुधानि च सर्वशक्ति तत्रार्पितानि यमीत स्मरणेन कालः एतार्ची तव कृपभगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवम् इत्रसम् मिहजानि नानुरागः
Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Manina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari.
नदनं न जनम न सुंदरीं कवितं वा जगदिशकामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवदात् भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि
Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Mishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sthita Duli Sadarsam Vichintaya.
न जनम गलदश्रु Taraya Vadanam Katkada Rutaya Gira Pulakairni Chitam Vapukada Tavanama Karahane Pavishyati.
Yuga itam nimeshena chakshusha pravirsha itam shunya itam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me.
Ashlishyava Pararatam Pinastumam Adarshanan Marma Hatam Karotuva Yatatatava Vidatatulam Matprana Natastu Saeva Naparaha.
Ribo. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the star in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separations, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Inam Sankirtan ki
Jai.
jai, Sadhava ki jai,
Jai.
Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Sri Krishna
Jai.
Chaitanya Prabhu ki jai, Jagat Guru Shla
Jai.
Bhaktivedanta Swami Shla Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki Jai.
Nande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.